Right now, there is an insect within 10 feet of you. You can't see it, you don't need to. It's inside the wall, under the floorboards, in the soil past your window, or riding a column of warm air somewhere above your head. Now delete it, delete all of them. Every beetle, every bee, every ant, every moth, every termite, every one of them in the same second, everywhere on Earth. Before you go any further, stop and actually picture it for a moment. Your street, your garden, the park you walk through. Now picture all of it with nothing crawling, nothing buzzing, nothing landing on your arm. Hold that image because you're going to need it later. And while you're picturing it, do something for me. Tell me where you're watching this from. City, country, the middle of nowhere. I want to see how far this reaches. Drop it in the comments before we go on. Because most people feel relief when they imagine this. No mosquitoes, no roaches in the kitchen, no wasp circling the picnic table. That's the fantasy version. The real version is much shorter, and it ends with you. So what actually happens, not in 1,000 years, in the first week? Day 1 is quiet, almost pleasant. The air feels clean, nothing bites you, and for about 24 hours the world looks like it got exactly what it asked for. Then the silence starts to spread. By the end of week 1, the birds are in serious trouble. Not eventually. Immediately, a single pair of blue tits raising one nest of chicks needs somewhere around 10,000 caterpillars to get them fledged, and those caterpillars no longer exist. The parents fly search patterns over an empty forest. The chicks starve in the nest. Do you know what a forest sounds like without insects? It doesn't sound peaceful. It sounds like a room where somebody cut the power. Then the food web starts unzipping from the bottom. Freshwater fish lose the mayflies, the caddisflies, the midge larvae that make up most of what they eat. Trout populations crash inside a single season. Frogs go next. Then lizards, then bats, which lose their entire diet in one night and simply drop out of the sky. Every animal that ate those animals follows them straight down. This isn't speculation, by the way. A version of it has already been measured. The ecologist Brad Lister surveyed the arthropods of the Luquillo rainforest in Puerto Rico in the 1970s. Decades later, he went back and ran the same surveys again. The insect biomass had collapsed by an order of magnitude, and the lizards, the frogs, and the insect-eating birds in that same forest had fallen with them. That was a partial loss. We're talking about a total one. Now go look in your kitchen. Open the fridge, start removing things. Roughly 3/4 of the world's crop types get some benefit from animal pollination. That number comes from Alexandra Maria Klein and her colleagues, who in 2007 went through global crops one by one and audited them. 3/4 of types. Not 3/4 of calories. Because here's the strange mercy in this. Wheat, rice, corn, and most cereals are pollinated by wind. They survive, so you do not starve in month 1. You just lose almost everything that makes food worth eating. Apples, almonds, blueberries, cherries, melons, squash, avocados, coffee, cocoa, vanilla, every one of them gone or crippled inside 2 growing seasons. Then it moves up a level. Alfalfa and clover, the crops that feed cattle, need insect pollination to set seed. So the feed collapses, then the dairy. Then the beef, cotton yields fall too, which means the shirt you're wearing gets more expensive as well. What's left? Bread, rice, porridge, forever. And that's only the first of 4 things insects were doing for you. The second one is disposal. Every day on every continent, an enormous quantity of dung and dead bodies hits the ground. Insects remove it. Blowflies find a carcass within minutes. Burying beetles take it underground. Dung beetles roll, tunnel, and bury waste before it can smother the grass beneath it. Take them away and none of that decays properly. It dries, it sits, it mummifies where it fell. Sound exaggerated? It happened. When Europeans brought cattle to Australia, they brought an animal that produced dung the native beetles wouldn't touch, because those beetles had evolved around dry marsupial pellets. Pasture began suffocating under crusted cow pats. Bush fly numbers exploded into the millions. In the 1960s, an entomologist named George Bornemissa convinced the Australian government to import dung beetle species from Africa and Europe to fix it. An entire continent needed an emergency shipment of beetles. That is what removing one insect job from one country looks like. The third thing is underneath you. Termites and ants are the engineers of soil. They tunnel, they aerate, they drag organic matter down and mix it through. In the tropics, termites shift more earth than earthworms do. Without that, soil compacts. Water runs off the surface instead of soaking in. Nutrients stop cycling and stay locked in dead material that nothing is left to break down. And ants do something else you've probably never thought about. Thousands of plant species have seeds specifically shaped to be carried by ants with a little fatty attachment that ants take back to the nest. No ants, no seed dispersal. Those plants stay exactly where they dropped and then they stop. Some relationships are even tighter than that. Almost every species of fig on Earth is pollinated by one specific species of wasp, and that wasp lives nowhere but inside that fig. 800 plus species locked in a one-tune deal. Figs feed more tropical birds and mammals than almost any other fruit. Kill the wasps and you kill the figs, and you kill everything that was surviving the dry season on them. Do you see the shape of this yet? Nothing collapses on its own. Everything collapses attached to something else. The biologist E.O. Wilson called insects the little things that run the world. He wasn't being poetic. He was being literal, and he made a hard prediction with it. Remove the invertebrates, and he estimated humanity would last a matter of months before the terrestrial environment broke down completely. Month, not centuries. And now here's the part that should actually bother you. This is not a thought experiment. It's a slow-motion version of one that's already running. In 2017, a researcher named Kasper Hallman published data from a group of German amateur entomologists who had been running the same insect traps in the same protected nature reserves for 27 years. The flying insect biomass had fallen by more than 75%. Not in farmland, in protected reserves, the places we set aside specifically so this wouldn't happen. 2 years later, Francisco Sanchez Bayo and Chris Wickheis reviewed the global literature and reported that around 40% of insect species were in decline, with habitat loss and pesticide use leading the causes. And Dave Galson at the University of Sussex has spent years making the uncomfortable point that we let this happen almost invisibly because nobody counts insects. There is no census. There's no charity raising money for the beetle. We notice the tiger and the whale, and we miss the thing holding the entire structure up. You may have noticed it yourself without realizing. If you drove long distances in the 1980s, your windshield was covered in insects. Now it isn't. That's not better windshield design. That's data. So run the scenario one more time, but slowly. Not every insect gone tonight, just a few % more every decade. Quiet enough that no single year feels like a catastrophe. Slow enough that each generation grows up thinking the emptier version is normal and has no memory of the loud one. That's the actual timeline. It doesn't arrive as an apocalypse. It arrives as a series of ordinary summers that are each a little quieter than the last. The good news, and there is some, is that insects are not whales. They breed fast in huge numbers, and they come back quickly when you give them anything to come back to. Uncut verges, hedgerows, fewer pesticides, a patch of a garden left deliberately messy. Populations rebound in seasons, not centuries. Almost no other conservation problem gives you that. So the mosquito lands on your arm tonight and you go to kill it, and honestly, go ahead. Nobody's asking you to love it. Just understand what it's standing in for. Right now, there is an insect within 10 feet of you, and it is the only reason you're still here.